True story. 8 years ago, I ordered a custom bow from a reputable bow manufacturer all the way across the country. We talked a couple times, talked about woods and styles, and then we settled on what I was looking for, gave him my specs, and paid my down payment. 7 months later, the bow was ready. I paid in full. He shipped me the bow. I hated it the minute it came out of the box. It didn't look good. It didn't feel right. And it didn't shoot good. I ended up selling that bow 3 weeks later for $250 less than I paid for it. I took a bath on that, and my wife was not happy. Enter Blackwidow Bows. They have a test drive program. If you're even remotely interested in shooting a Blackwidow bow, give those guys at the shop a call. Talk to them. Tell them what you're looking for. They're going to give some really good guidance. They're going to have some really great advice. They're going to have a bow that's close to your specs on the demo rack, if not right on. You're going to run your card. You're going to pay for shipping both ways. You're going to pay for insurance both ways, and you're going to get to shoot the bow for a week. You might decide you don't want to shoot a Blackwidow bow, and that's cool. Send it back. But you might decide you want to order one. You want to make some tweaks to get it just what you want. I wish I had that option 8 years ago. If you're thinking about a Blackwidow bow, give those guys a call. If nothing else, they're fun to talk to. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the Stick Bow Chronicles, brought to you by the Blackwidow Bow Company. What's going on, Blake?
What's up, man? We got a big guest this week, huh?
Yeah, that was super cool. Remi Warren. Watched his stuff for a long time, and that was cool getting a chance to chat with him. I wish he could have made it.
Yeah, no, I was really bummed out. We kind of scheduled it a few days beforehand, and I thought that I was more than likely to be free, and turned out, as per usual, my job takes a dump on everything. So yeah, I couldn't make it. I was on a drilling rig all night, so just is what it is.
No, it was a great conversation. Enjoyed talking to him. And I think people be interested to hear it. You know, I went back and listened to some of his Cutting the Distance episodes, just kind of refresh my memory. And man, he does a dynamite job. He's really good at teaching.
Yeah, no, he seems like his instructional stuff seems really well thought out and really well done, from what I've watched anyways. And you know, I don't know the guy, but I talk to people who have dealt with him, and everybody I've ever talked to has had pretty positive things to say about him. So I think he's a real deal.
Yeah, it was funny. I didn't press the issue too much, but you know, he had started guiding when he was 22, or bought an outfit when he was 22 in Montana, and it was like I did the math real quick, and I can tell you that that was not a real popular move those years. To get into the outfitting business. That's when the wolves were smoking stuff and everybody was getting out. So it was a bold move for him.
Yeah, no, that's crazy to get into that deep at such a young age. It's, you know, but that's what he's built his reputation on, is having all that experience. And you know, anymore, there's typically people of his magnitude or social media following aren't always the most transparent people in the world. And a lot of times they don't even have that much experience. So I think he's kind of a rare character nowadays.
Well, I did, for all those people out there that watched his video when he shot that elk last year with a longbow, I told him he certainly got some hate over that, because You're like, how do you just call a bull and set cameras up? Everything's perfect. You shoot it with a longbow just on a whim. so I said, I promise you there's some people out there who are hating on you.
Yeah, man, it's hard enough. I've filmed some of my whitetail stuff, and it's hard enough filming out of a tree in a stationary position where you pretty much know where the animal's going to be to a certain degree. And man, it's filming adds a whole other caveat to hunting. And I don't know if y'all talked about it much, but I love photography and videography, and it's something that I really enjoy, but I have a really, really hard time with it whenever I get into hunt mode, because I get my, tunnel vision, for lack of a better term, and just get in kill mode and forget about the camera and all that stuff. So my hat's off to anybody that can do that and do it well.
Well, I wished I had, he's probably put out so many, he wouldn't remember unless I really prompt him on it. I wished I had recalled what video it was, but he had a shot where, that he leaves the camera, of course, everything he's doing is by himself, and he's way across, literally it's probably 400 yards. I think in the podcast they said 100 or 200 yards. It's probably 400 yards across. Number one, I'm thinking, and he's loaded. He's got a load of meat on. I'm thinking, you got to come back and get that camera. That's going to suck. He's climbing. I mean, it's across this draw, and and he's climbing out through the timber. And it's like, how do you even know you're in the viewfinder? He's so far over there. He really would have had to check his make his path, because it was pretty funny.
Oh, that's a whole other can of worms. It's hard enough to do it with somebody who's there that's dedicated to film, and that's their job. That's your only job. You don't have a tag. Your job is to film this thing, and it's a whole other ball game when you're doing it yourself. And I'm sorry, I'm not leaving a camera across a canyon and hiking up the other side. It just ain't happening.
The one good
on my forehead.
the one good thing is he could have dropped a load of meat and gone downhill. Be like, yeah, there's a break to go get the camera. But anyways, it was cool. I really appreciated him coming on, taking the time to come on, because I know he's super busy. So, yep, it was cool.
I'm looking forward to listening to it, and hopefully we can get him back on in the next couple months. And, speaking of those of you who enjoy listening to this thing, or any of the stuff that we do, make sure go on iTunes or wherever you listen, leave us a review. That helps us out a lot. Go subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're planning on, at this point, pumping out some more YouTube type content this year, hopefully. So, that's a huge help for us, and it makes our podcast a little bit more visible to people who maybe haven't heard of it before. If you go and leave us a positive review on, like I said, on iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, wherever you listen to these things. So, yeah,
that'd be greatly appreciated. We've pretty fortunate. We've been doing pretty good in the rankings, but if you like what we're doing and you want to spread the stickbow message that we spread anyways, that'd be greatly appreciated.
Who knows? Maybe we'll do a giveaway at some point. Go and leave a review, and we'll give something away.
Heck yeah! Hey, and one other thing before we get going, Western States Rendezvous. If you've ever been to a Western States Rendezvous, what they do is it's a traveling shoot hosted by a different state every year. So it's California, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Montana, and I think that's it. Anyways, it was going to be in Montana last year, and the COVID thing shut them down. Lolo, over by the Bitterroot Valley, or right outside the Bitterroot Valley. Going to be a blast. Bridger Bowman, I think, are a big part of who's putting it on. And I believe they're a younger club. I could be wrong. Could be wrong, but I think it's like a 2-year-old club. And those are always some of the best, because you get, people are just fired up and jumping in, and a lot of good guys that I see on social media running that. So it is May 28th to the 30th. So it's over that Memorial Day weekend, but it doesn't include Memorial Day, which is cool because I got to work Memorial Day. So I'm looking forward to going. Randy Cooling's actually thinking of dragging the Safari Tough over there. I believe it's going to be a monster turnout, to be honest.
Yeah, no, that's one of those things that I wish I had more time to play with, because I love going to, especially after going up and shooting with Aaron and them at that mountain course that they've got there. I'd love to get out to, Western States Rendezvous and CTAS and some of those shoots out west, because it's a whole different can of worms.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see the flyer on the Stickbow Chronicles group page. It's on there. Gosh, I don't know. Maybe I'll try to link something in the show notes. But you got to pre-register. Camping's limited, so I'm looking forward to it, and y'all ought to make it too.
10-4. Well, you got anything else you want to
add? Only big thanks to our sponsors. We really appreciate everybody's support, and if you like the show, please support these sponsors: Kifaru International, The Footed Shaft, Selway Archery, Backwoods Grind Coffee Company, and of course Blackwidow Bows. We really appreciate their support. If you like the show, hey, give them a shout out. Shop there. Let's keep this community going. That's all I got. Enjoy the show. Roger out. Hey, Remi, what's happening?
How's it going, man?
Not too bad. You in Nevada right now?
I am. Yep. Yeah, I'm in Nevada. I headed over and did a late season goose hunt this weekend. And in California, actually. I figure everyone in California is going everywhere I hunt, so I might as well go where they hunt.
That's a good one.
Shoot some specs and some snows, and it was pretty fun. It was a good time.
Oh, that's a good one. Hunting in California, I'll be dang. So you grew up in Nevada, right?
Yeah, I did.
Did you grow up in a hunting family?
Yeah, my dad was a hunter. My grandpa was a hunter. But they were probably more. Well, my grandpa actually was outfitted in Montana for quite a while and a guide, and then my dad, loved to hunt, but it was more like weekend stuff. And then when I started getting into hunting, I just took it to a whole new level, and then he would hunt more because I would hunt more, and then we pretty much ended up finding ourselves hunting all the time, which is pretty awesome.
Now, was guiding something that you had thought you'd do when you were a kid? Is it something you always wanted to do?
Yeah, I thought anything I could do where I could go hunting and be out hunting and do that, that was definitely something that I was interested in. And definitely kind of the career path that I really saw myself into, something that I was like, man, if I could do that, that would be awesome. That was something that I pretty much didn't really think of wanting to really do anything else, to be honest.
Well, that's cool. Well, buying an outfit at 22 years old when you bought an outfit, is that right?
Yeah. I worked kind of like right out of high school. I started working, kind of went to college like spring and summer semester. So I took off like the entire August through January to guide and hunt and do whatever. And I started kind of working for an outfitter, and then always there's I don't know, like everybody has their own ways of wanting to do things, and I became pretty successful just guiding and had really good success just like with my clients and everything. I thought, hey, I'd love to start my own. And one of the other outfitters in the area that I was guiding in was not the guy that I was working for at the time. I was going to actually start to take over the guy that I was working for's outfit, but one of his competitors was like, I want to retire. And he's like, I'll let you in. I'll sell you my permits for what I bought them in 1985 from your grandpa. And I said, deal. So I was like, I think I can make that happen, because he just wanted out, and it ended up working out really well for me. And and then the rest is kind of history. Started running that, and I simultaneously also guided for the other guy as well, just getting my feet under myself for the first year or so. And then and then kind of went from there.
Now, was that in Nevada or Montana?
That was in Montana.
Yeah.
In
Oh,
the
big
Prairie.
dang.
Yeah.
Now, tell me what you like and dislike about guiding. I have a little bit of experience guiding, and I have there's some things I really dig about it. What's kept you in the business all this time?
I mean, yeah, that's actually a good question. I kind of like, everyone's like, why do you still guide every year? Like, you could just be an outfitter and you could just not do it. You could just, I was like, I like guiding. I like taking people out. I kind of like, there's a couple reasons. One, I think it's really in many ways the hardest form of hunting. Because in most instances, you need to take somebody that probably doesn't have the skills that you have and have them be successful. And that's like, to me, that's the accomplishment. It's like, if you're good enough to take somebody else that really can't hike as well as you, really can't shoot as well as you, and motivate them and push them and get them into the right spot, know the animals well enough and help them get set up for the shot, and like the entire process. I always say it's like when you're guiding, you do everything but pull the trigger. And even sometimes that means like setting up the gun to where it's like, it's going to be steady for them, trying to take out all the variables of the things that can go wrong. And it's really exciting. It's like, I don't know, it's the challenge of it. And I think it's something that I just enjoy doing, being able to take people out. Every once in a while we get guys that have never hunted elk or deer. That's always really cool, like taking new hunters. But I don't know. I think a lot of it's like the challenge. And now at this point, we take a lot of guys that we've hunted with for a long time, like repeat clients, and it's like hunting with your friends at this point. So that there's a part of that I really enjoy as well.
Yeah. One thing for me was getting people that like really appreciated where they were at, and, were into the whole part of the hunt, not just, we're there to pull the trigger and go home, after 3 or 4 days, but appreciated everything, the whole aspect of it. And that was fun. And like you say, you get to live the excitement through them, that was pretty cool.
Yeah. And you always get to meet, like, there's always, I think the guide stories you mostly tell are like the real bad ones, but overwhelmingly it's like you get to meet some really awesome people that you probably wouldn't get to meet otherwise, and get to have like a really cool outdoor experience with them. And then, my whole thing was always just like sharing that hunting experience the way that I know hunting. And when people really latch onto that, and like, this is one of the coolest things I've done in my life, like, that's really cool to be a part of. I've heard that so many times, like, this is something like to be a part of somebody's best moments, like, that's really, or something that's so unique or so exciting or so, something that they've always dreamed of. That's really cool. It's a really cool experience.
So after we started emailing back and forth, I went back through and was listening to a bunch of episodes on Cutting the Distance, your podcast that you do there. And I got to tell you, I mentioned before we started, those 2 bear episodes that you did, I don't recall the dates on them, but you have a gift of education, as an educator for sure. Those were some quality, just instructional, like how to find bears, what they're going to be doing for spot and stock and stuff. So first off, hats off to you for being a good educator. That is Cutting the Distance podcast. Where else? I know you do some work with Tim Burnett, the Solohunter. What else you got going on?
Still do the Solohunter stuff, and I do a lot of stuff mostly on Instagram, social media. If you want to find it, it's at Remi Warren. But do a lot of that kind of stuff, and I do a lot of stuff for just like companies that I work with. A lot of people, like, it's funny, when I first got into it, everything, I really always wanted to do like TV stuff, and now TV stuff's kind of changed to at least some form of digital media, and digital media has changed to like companies that used to sponsor things now want like stuff that's their own to make content for them. So I do a lot of that as well. And then one thing that I've done for a very long time, I think kind of gets overlooked, is I write for Western Hunter magazine. So I always have an article in that magazine. I think it's a pretty quality magazine. So I'm always proud of that kind of stuff, back on that education line, a lot of how-to stuff. But yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I try to, take the experiences that I've had and turn that into ways that guys that maybe aren't as fortunate to get out as much can take some of that and be successful in a shorter amount of time. Because I know a lot of this stuff, especially Western big game hunting, there's so many facets to it. If you want to be a good elk hunter, a good mule deer hunter, a good archery hunter, there's like so many learning curves, so many things you got to get through and learn, and then not have the full amount of time to dedicate to it. But if I can kind of share some of my knowledge, I think that's really important to me, and that makes me think that it's like, hey, that's a cool way to share what I do with other people so they can be successful as well.
Yeah, I'm always impressed with people that jump in their rig, in Maryland or New Jersey or Pennsylvania, and then drive out west and elk hunt, and whether or not they kill something. I mean, what I take for granted in this, the scouting and knowing areas and just going to do that thousands of miles away, it always impresses me, not just with their fortitude, but and they get successful. It's like, man, it's it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, definitely. It's a big expedition. It's a big trip, and if you get to go out and do that, where do you even start? And I think that's what's cool about like now is there's a lot more information than there was when I started hunting, for sure. It's like even 10 years, there's a big difference in the type of information that's out there, and a lot of different technology too that just makes it a little bit easier, mapping software and other things. On one hand, it makes it easier and it's really cool. And on the other hand, for me, it's like, man, you don't have to like have any skills or put in as much work.
Exactly.
And it's kind of a bummer as well. Like in the same breath, something that I use and really enjoy is also something that I'm like, gosh, I secretly despise.
Yep.
But, I think that goes with anything.
Yeah. Well, it's a changing world. It is certainly a changing world. So yeah, going back to that bear episode, I actually had a couple days ago, I had somebody call me, and it's asking me questions because they wanted to do an out-of-state bear hunt. So after, I came across those 2 episodes, I just shared them. I'm like, hey bud, this is everything you've been asking me. You listen to these episodes, you're good to go. So yeah, good stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So you came on the radar with your last year you killed an elk with a longbow?
Yep. Yeah.
So
last year.
Well, my buddies, they send me the video clip and they're like, check this out. Not only does he kill an elk with a longbow, but he sets a camera up and gets it on camera perfectly. What brought the stick bow to mind?
I actually started bow hunting with traditional gear, and I pretty much hunt. I've always hunted with a recurve or a longbow. I've even got a self bow here that I hunt with every once in a while, mostly small game. But I always hunt with it. Most of the time it's stuff that I hunt is kind of on my own, or like what I would consider like a personal hunt, something that I don't film. And then every once in a while I just get a wild hair and be like, I'll just film this one with it, a hunt or 2 here or there. That last year, actually, I had some clients that I was supposed to guide, but all my clients last year were from Australia.
Oh.
And so they couldn't come over because of COVID.
Yeah.
So I was like, I've got a lot of time to bow hunt. I might as well just hunt with my stick bow and use my longbow and see how I do. And I had a friend coming out to hunt with me, and he kind of was like, oh man, I really want to hunt with my recurve. And I was like, yeah, sweet, do it. I'll hunt with my longbow. You hunt with your recurve. We'll just do a little trad bow trip. And I ended up killing mine pretty early in the season. So I just got a call for him the whole time, which was awesome. It was really fun. I got a lot. I pretty much didn't guide, but I was in the field calling for other people the entire season anyway. So it was great. It's like guiding, but not getting paid for it. And I'm like, hey, it was just as fun as guiding. It's what I love to do. But I figured I was just, I don't know. I just had the gumption it had been long enough. I filmed a few deer hunts for Solohunter with my recurve, and just hadn't done any filming of it in a while. So I figured I might as well just go out and do it.
Yeah, I do remember seeing you kill a mule deer with a recurve a while back.
Yeah. It was a pretty good one too. I hunted pretty much the whole season. for that particular buck. And then toward the end of the season during the rut, ended up getting on him again and getting a good arrow in him, which is pretty sweet.
And again, going back to the videoing thing, it kind of cracked a few of us up. Like, people work hard. Of course, you do it for a living, but people work hard to get in stick bow range, and you just flop out a camera and everything comes out perfect. So
Yeah.
Some people might hate you for that.
Yeah, I mean, I make it look easy, but it's not easy. Like never been like, oh, that was easy. For the most part, it's pretty difficult. Any filming, like when you add the self-filming, it just adds so many layers to the difficulty. And I like a certain amount of difficulty. That's why I do things. And I think that's kind of why, like, the hunts that I don't do anything with, I mostly hunt with traditional gear, just because it adds that little bit of difficulty. If I'm not filming, then I don't have that challenge with the camera. And I kind of found the sweet spot of like difficulty, but still being consistently successful is filming with a compound bow, self-filming. And like, that's still very, very hard. Like I shake my head at myself sometimes when I'm doing it going, why am I doing this? It's just so difficult. But I think it kind of sets me apart, and it's something that I love to do. When I go out and hunt without the camera, I'm like, oh, this is really easy now. Like, it's made me that much better of a hunter, where I've got friends that always just like joke with me, but I'm like, when I go out, sometimes I'll like go out and I just feel like, I'm like, man, it feels like cheating if I'm not filming myself, because it's like too easy now. You're just so used to blowing it in so many ways. And it really got me to think of like, just every little thing that has to be right, and how to move around animals, and how to take my time, and how to set up, and how to make it happen, and how to be extra quiet when things are extra loud. Overall, doing that for 10 years, it's made me a lot better hunter in general. So I'm like kind of thankful for it, and I'm kind of like slightly addicted to it, just like anything else, where you're like, okay, it's something that I enjoy to do. And I think even I have so many hunts that I've filmed and self-filmed and done nothing with, that no one's ever seen, only because I just didn't, maybe didn't film all the other stuff, or didn't get some, who knows what. But it's like, it's just something that I still enjoy doing, and I do it because I like it, really.
When I was watching, I was watching one of them the other day, and it dawned on me, even when you're hunting alone, when you're self-filming, you're always talking to people, right? You're looking at the camera. It's like, well, you're not really alone.
Yeah. Like, hey, here's what I'm doing. Because if you don't do that, then I don't even remember what was going on. I'm like, well, there's a lot of shoes off stalking and a lot of me cussing and fear running away. I guess we could turn that into something.
There was one shot you had, you had killed something. I might have been an elk or something. You were walking up a hillside, and it was you were a long ways away from the camera. So you're going up this hillside. First off, I'm like, how does he know? He must have really had to pick the route, because he wouldn't be in the viewfinder. And then he's got to go back and get that camera, because it looks like it's, several hundred yards away.
Yeah, I know. It's like the do it twice. I mean, for some reason, I don't know why, but when I first started filming stuff, actually, before I ever did the solo thing or whatever, I had been a guide on shows where there was a hunter and we were hunting and I was guiding, and they would like pretty much not film anything till we killed an animal. And then they would go back and recreate the stalk and the shot and all the other stuff. Essentially, after we killed something, then we would film the hunt on all the ones that I did for something else. And I just hated that. I was like, this isn't real. This is stupid. So in my mind, I'm like, I'm just going to film everything as it happens. And so that includes sneaking in with a bow. That includes like hiking. That includes everything. But when you're filming yourself, I got to do it twice. So most of the deer that I've killed, I actually stalk twice. I sneak in the first time, film, set my bow down, crawl back, get the camera, crawl in, set the camera up, shoot the animal.
Oh, you're kidding.
It's like,
holy
and
smokes.
I'm like, I would probably like do a lot better if I just did stuff after the fact. But for some reason in my brain, I hated it so much that I'm like, nah, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be that guy. There might be something that I get like after like B-roll or other things, but I'm like, man, I like to keep it in the action, because I think that it's more real to life, and I don't know, it adds to the challenge. But yeah, I do everything twice. So the pack outs I try to keep pretty short, because sometimes I got to go up the mountain, set the camera up, hike down, hike back up. You're like, man, I just packed this thing out. It's way too far for too long, for no reason other than to get a cool shot on a ridge that I already walked. But I don't know, it's kind of fun in the same token.
Well, yeah, there's got to be so much work going into it. I mean, just hearing you tell that aspect, I mean, there's got to be so much more work that goes into, into one single hunt to get all that footage. Holy smokes!
Yeah, it's a lot. But my thought is, like, I just keep the camera out, I hold it, and that way it's out and ready. And there are hunts where I'm like, I keep it in my backpack for the most time, and then I end up filming nothing. Those are the ones that I don't turn into anything because I didn't have enough video to make anything happen. But for the most part, it's like if I have it out, and I just try to film everything as it goes down, and then just kind of, and then obviously we edit it, to make a linear story that's like you can watch and is semi-palatable.
Yeah, elk is my first love, elk hunting, and in one of those videos, you had a statement I thought was gold. And I'm probably going to screw it up, but you said it's better to know elk behavior, or it's more important to know elk behavior than to be an expert caller or something like that. And I was like, man, that is spot on.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot. Well, and it's like people are always like, "Oh, yeah, that comes from somebody that knows how to call elk." But if you know what elk want to do, what they like, what their habits, their whatever, you can go anywhere and be successful killing elk. And not necessarily the sound. I mean, there's been times where I mean, yes, if you can make really good elk sounds, you're going to be a little bit better. But understanding what sounds to make when and how to call, you might have a bull that really is going to respond to an aggressive bugle, and that's the call that you need to make in that moment. And if you just decide to go with cow calls, then he's not going to come in, and you're going to have a story of an elk that just didn't commit. And vice versa. There might be a bull that you need to cow call and not bugle, and you just got to know how to work the elk and where to go and how to position yourself. And just knowing that the cadence and what you're doing is more important than how you're sounding.
Yeah.
Because I've heard some really horrible elk bugle, like real elk. I've also heard some hunters make some really bad bugles, and you're like, yeah, they won't call anything in. And then, but if it's a guy that knows how to, the right elk sounds to make. I've seen people calling giant bull elk with a hoochie mama call. Yeah. Now, whether it was accidental or incidental or whatever, it just happened to be that that's the sound that elk wanted. And it wasn't necessarily the tone of that call that made the difference, but they had the right call going at the right time. And if you just know when to employ those right calls, then you're going to be a lot more successful.
Yeah, and that's something. I'm by no means an expert caller, but I've done it for a long time. I've always thought, like, we're looking at a window. You might be working a bull. You might have heard him. You might be working a bull for an hour and a half, 2 hours. You heard him. You're moving in. You're getting in close, and whatever tactics you use, whether or not it works, we don't know what has happened in that bull's world in the last 6 or 8 hours. That's going to impact what he's thinking. So I always laugh, like, unless I kill him, I think I did something wrong, when in fact you just don't know what he's been up to.
Yeah, I think most people, when they're calling, they feel like they did something wrong, and then when in fact the noise that was made or whatever, the elk was just doing a natural response to whatever happened. I used to hear that all the time, like, elk are so call shy, or as soon as you blow a bugle, they run the other way. And it's like, no, it's not because they think you're a hunter. It's because they think you're an elk. And that's actually a good thing. A lot of the success I have killing elk is when they round up their cows and go the other way, because I just dog them and do what elk naturally do. You watch, if you went out there in the woods and didn't make a sound and watched what elk do in the mornings when they're calling toward each other, it's the same thing that happens when you're calling toward them. So we can't just be so like humanistic that we think everything we do is because of us. It's like, no, they're naturally responding to what you're doing. You're doing a good job. Now just get athletic and chase them until they want to come in and fight, or whatever the following tactic needs to be,
Yeah. I've just been old school, never really looked at the specific sounds. I never drilled into it until last year when I talked to Chris Rowe, had Chris on the podcast, and he just made a couple statements, and it was like light bulbs. And I can't believe that I've gone all of these years hunting elk, and I really haven't drilled down into their sounds. So even if you can't make those sounds really good, there's different sounds, So kind of opened my eyes for sure.
Yeah.
So I guess that answers a question I was going to ask you, why you don't jump in both feet on traditional, but sounds like you do quite a bit, but not for filming.
Yeah, I mean, I shoot my longbow or recurve. I mean, I kind of like try to I shoot as often as I'm home, and I shoot my compound bow and I shoot my trad bow, whatever, either one of whatever I got, pretty much whenever I shoot both. I don't know. I like it. I think it's fun, but also, I mean, yeah, it's that I also like to share it. And I also really enjoy hunting with a compound bow as well. And I think that sometimes too, it relates to a lot more people,
sure,
in some way, but also every once in a while, I just got to take the trad bow out and just go on a hunt for myself or whatever. But also I think, I do a lot of this. It's my job as well. So, it's a lot easier to have a company that makes compound bows that wants to sponsor whatever you're doing or help, make it happen. Like if you're like, oh, I want to film this, and there's not as many like traditional bow companies that jump on board with that, really.
Yeah, there's not a lot of money in traditional archery.
No, and it's not necessarily like, oh, I'm doing it for the money, but it is my business, it's my job, and it's a job that I love, and it's a job that I'm very fortunate to do, and I love hunting with modern compound bows as well. I honest to God just love hunting.
Yeah,
it doesn't really matter what it's with. I mean, it could be a muzzleloader, it could be a rifle, it could be a shotgun, it could be for birds, it could be for small game with a stick bow. Like if there was a boomerang season, I'd probably take it up and be pretty stoked on it. I love that whole aspect. I mean, everything from spear fishing and fly fishing to bow hunting, trad bow hunting. It just doesn't really matter what it is. I love the outdoors and love like all the different experiences. And I think it's fun to kind of do a little bit of everything too. Because everybody has hunting experiences that are different, but we all love the same thing. So I think to kind of do a little bit of everything helps me understand, the little things that everybody likes about the same thing that I like.
Yeah. And I think that's healthy too. I mean, I was going to make that comment, some point here that you strike me as a hunter because, you're out there, whether it's, rifle hunting, you're not pigeonholed into archery hunting. Of course, archery hunting generally has really good seasons. That's why we do it.
Yeah, exactly.
But, that kind of segues into something I was going to mention. Like, I'd never heard of this show, London Reel, but came across, you were, just discussing hunting to a non-hunter. And I feel like you did a good job of presenting, why we do what we do. And it seems like 10, 15 years ago, we as hunters thought the anti-hunters were going to attack us from, a certain direction. But man, it seems like the last few years that we have been under attack, but it's just coming from odd places. I'll just throw that out to you. I mean, you have any thoughts on that?
Oh yeah. I mean, I really don't think that like, unfortunately, maybe it's just my own opinion, but I think that some of the some things have contributed most to, let's put air quotes out there, anti-hunting are hunters themselves.
Yeah.
And it's very, very unfortunate. I mean, I actually wrote an article in Western Hunter magazine a couple of issues ago that was like, social media will be the end of hunting.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's really funny coming from somebody that uses social media and hunting as like, that's your like part of your business model. But it also, it means, it just means that like we as hunters, now that there's so much out there, have to self-police ourselves, because ever since, I mean, hunting is can be a very hot topic for some, but it's not the hunters that allow hunting, and it's not the anti-hunters that will stop hunting. It's the people in the middle that make the decisions. And when these ballot initiatives come up and all these crazy things that are really the real threat to hunting come up, it's those people that don't do it, that probably don't care either way. But if they've seen something that emotionally incites them to be against you, then they will. And that's what's going to ruin it for us. So it's things that hunters do to other hunters or share with the general public, or think that it's 100% guaranteed that those people end up seeing that they might not want to see, that really is going to ruin it for everyone. And that's very unfortunate. I mean, I would say that our biggest losses in recent times for hunting have come from things that hunters have done and shared publicly that other people didn't agree with. And then something happened and a bill was changed and we lost a right.
Yeah. I mean, it's been said before, it's been said for a long time, is that social media gives a platform to everybody, and not everybody should have a platform.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Instagram. There is a couple of accounts. I don't follow a lot of accounts. I have an account for the Stickbow Chronicles, and that's kind of how you advertise. And so I'm on there, and there is a few accounts that pick out the stuff that you're talking about and highlight it, and and be like, this is crap. And I don't know where they come up with that stuff, but I can't imagine people thinking that stuff is a good idea. You've probably seen like what they do with waterfowls and take pictures, and like, what the heck is wrong with people?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you see all that. It's like, hey, if anybody, for a long time, hunters just did their thing and they shared it with their family and their friends. And you had to post a picture up on a hunting board or on a cork board in the back of a gun shop. And now that's changed to, you can put it out there for anyone to see. And as hunters, I think we're all just essentially ambassadors for what we love, for hunting. So the general public can see, whether you want them to or not, whatever you put up there. And so you need to make sure that what you put up there paints hunting in a good light, and it's something that they can relate to and say, oh, I didn't know that about what they do. It's not just them going out killing things, leaving them in the woods and just for pleasure. Like, I think most people that are anti-hunters paint hunting in the light that you look at it and you're like, this is so stupid. No hunter I know does that. Like, they're absolutely asinine. But if you play to that image and to that negativity, then and the general public picks up on that and they see that, it's going to get used against us, and it's going to be bad, and things are going to change, and that's unfortunate.
It's funny you mentioned the corkboard thing, because I did a podcast with some guys from Canada last week, and he mentioned something that didn't dawn on me, but he was 100% right. It's like, you remember going to a sporting goods store and you go and you walk over the corkboard there and you'd look at the pictures and you'd see these, you see these animals, and you're like, oh, that's cool and that's cool. But now we are so inundated with photos. Like, I personally, I don't even pay attention to them anymore because I just see them all the time. Whereas, it used to be like, oh, hey, look at that buck. That guy shot this buck or that bull, and that's pretty cool. But now it's just like, they're just everywhere. It's kind of it's taken away some of that magic.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I remember just how cool it was to be able to go down there and post a picture. And, it's like the original social media. Instead of like blasting someone with comments and tearing them apart and being negative toward them, if you didn't like them, people would just poke your eyes out with another pin sitting on the board, And it's like, but, it was just like part of the hunting experience to, share that. And I would spend a lot of time going over the pictures, and actually I still do, like when I go to the Sportsman's Warehouse or a local sporting goods shop somewhere or whatever, and there's pictures on there, I take the time to sit and look at them, because it's pretty cool. But I think it's definitely something that, it's just another one of those things that's kind of lost. And it's like, yeah, maybe we're just gripping at straws here and liking things the way they were. But you also kind of got to move on with the times. One thing that I kind of think is kind of unfortunate is, like, those pictures would stay up and they would be in there for a year, and that's like until next hunting season. But now everything's so instant, everything's so like it's got to be there now and then it's gone tomorrow. And I think that kind of breeds a lot of like hunting for self-interest as well in some aspects. And I think that could be kind of a detractor from hunting. And I know people could say like, oh, you do this for a living, but it's also not, for me, I value the hunt and the way that I hunt and the way that I hunted more than a photo or a video or anything. So I would rather hunt in the right way and rather do it for the right reasons than do it for anything else. And I get to do that and share it along the way. And that's me. But I do see like kind of the negative side to it as well.
To spin it, like you say, to spin it on a positive, so the Stickbow Chronicles, I hunt with a stickbow. My buddy Blake, who co-hosts with me, he's like 3 or 4 years into shooting a stickbow, but he's been a compound guy. It's not a dividing line. I mean, most all my hunting partners shoot compound, so there's not that dividing line. But I encourage people to, give it a try. You want to step up, make it a little bit harder. So where I'm going with this is last year. Just on a whim, we did a giveaway with some pretty cool stuff. It was send in your traditional harvest, and I got inundated. Inundated with photos weekly from just all over. Like people, what they killed with a stick bow, and some of those photos. Like, of course, I got a ton of, hey, this is my first trad kill, and people that have been successful with a compound, but they've been shooting a stick bow for 3 or 4 years and they finally killed something. You look at the faces on these people and sometimes you see just this smile that's just like, that is awesome. I mean, you can feel their excitement. I still remember a few of them vividly. These pictures are just like, So, it didn't matter if it was a doe or, a freaking, 170 whitetail. It was super cool to see that excitement in people. So fun.
That's really cool. That's what it's like. It's fun to be able to share with the hunting community and be like, this is what what as hunters, we all know when we get something, it's very exciting, especially if it's something like that was very hard earned or took you a while or is very challenging. I mean, that means even more. And then to be able to share that with other people that understand that experience is always really cool, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's something that I've always valued about the hunting community, and like our ability to share. It's like, it's sharing in so many ways. I mean, think about some of the best stories it's like most hunters are good at telling stories because we tell hunting stories. I can't tell any other kind of story, but I'll sit down and listen to a hunting story and tell a hunting story. I just say if like there's 2 hunters in a party, at some point they'll gravitate toward each other and just they can talk all day about hunting stories and gear and whatever. But it's just like part of the hunting culture to share those experiences that we had. I think that's a cool way to do it.
Yeah. That's good stuff. I do have, I know you've done a lot of podcasting today. I don't want to keep you too long, but I do have one kind of a heavy subject here I'd like to pick your brain on. Now, I mentioned that 15 years ago, we thought, what the threat to hunting was going to look like. But it sure seems like over the last few years that even from within the hunting community, we've seen a real pushback towards predator hunting. You can, pick the species, mountain lions, bears. And for me being in Idaho and kind of having an understanding how game managers, how they work, you talk about handcuffing a state's ability to manage wildlife. Well, look what almost happened in California this year with that bill that would essentially have stopped bear hunting. What's your view about predator hunting? Do you feel like it's been kind of under attack with this younger generation coming up?
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird deal, and I think that's kind of when I talk about like social media being the death of a lot of hunting. I think that plays into it in a lot of ways. So I personally, obviously, think that predators need to be managed. In many of the areas where I've hunted, we've experienced some of the worst, really bad predator management, and seen the penalties of that when it comes to other ungulate populations. Like with these wolves going into Colorado and whatever, I mean, it's going to be a different landscape. And then, with the attitudes toward, I just don't even, I try to wrap my mind around it. Sometimes it's like, how can you have people ban, like for instance, in the state of California, ban mountain lion hunting and even importing in any part of a mountain lion, when there are so many mountain lions? Like, it's just absolutely crazy. I've gone over there and got some general tags, and I see more bears than deer nearly every time.
Seriously.
Yeah. And it's like, there are more bears. And I mean, California, in my opinion, is the best state in the country to hunt bears. And it's like, there's more bears than it, and they need to be hunted. They need to be managed. And as it gets less popular, as whatever, then, our other populations of animals suffer, and it's not managed correctly. Then you got the other edge of the sword where everybody can post everything. And for some reason, I don't know what it is, predators like strike a heartstring in the general public. So if we're, showing pictures of mountain lions being treed and shot out of a tree and everybody high-fiving and laughing in a way that looks bad, it's going to get banned. I mean, to get that on the ballot and to get it banned, they used videos from hunters to ban hound hunting and to ban mountain lion hunting. And it was hunters' videos that somehow got circulated that were of poor taste. So, on one end, I mean, I shot a wolf last year, helped another guy kill wolves. I shot 2 bears. I've hunted mountain lion. So for me, I actively predator hunt. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with predator hunting. I don't necessarily, if you, coyote calling, whatever, it needs to be done. But I also don't share a lot of that stuff on social media because I don't want it to go away. And I almost think that it's like, if I shared it, it might paint it in the wrong light to everybody that can see it. But I will share it within the hunting community and things where somebody has to actively seek it, like in a hunting magazine, in something that was like, oh, you have to buy a membership to a hunting video, whatever, something like that, where it's like, okay, amongst hunters, I will promote it, but to the general public, I don't necessarily know if I don't want something that I take getting used to ban predator hunting because I know it's so integral to what we do. They need to be managed. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, in Idaho, I feel like they do a pretty good job. But it just, you talk about Colorado. You're familiar with the way Idaho's elk herds went. That was devastating for us for 10, 15 years until things started to start to rebound. My concern is, or my interest is piqued when they do swarm down on Colorado like they did in Idaho. I mean, it was bad. Zero management, which I don't think they're going to ever be able to manage in Colorado. It's the pressure that it's going to put on the other remaining states that really spooks me.
Yeah, I know. And part of me is like, I don't want no predators. I think they're pretty cool. I think it's, if you're like, oh, there's no bears or no grizzly bears, I'm like, oh, something's missing from the landscape. There's no wolves. We need some. When I go out and I see a wolf, I'm like, that's really cool. That's a cool experience. Most of the time I have a tag and I'm going to try to get it. But, I think they need to be around. They need to be managed though. And that's the hard part when you can't talk about both things simultaneously, when the group that wants them there wants them unmanaged. And it's like, well, that's not really beneficial. And that's too bad. I've always said, like, one thing we need to do is like, brown bears are awesome. I hunt a lot of places where there's brown bears. The entire coast of California, Oregon, and Washington should have brown bears.
It would be awesome.
And yeah, it'd be awesome. And maybe once, like, I think a lot of people that make these decisions of what happens to predators don't live anywhere near where these predators are.
Yes.
The average person that wants a reintroduction of a grizzly bear has never encountered a grizzly bear except maybe on a Yellowstone vacation from the bus. They really have no experience with them. They don't live with them. They don't understand how it takes a toll on like people's everyday lives. There's a reason that we nearly hunted a lot of these animals to extinction. And I'm not saying that reason's right, but there is like most people don't understand that you need to manage them in a certain way on the landscape. And up until very recently, they've been managed for thousands of years. You know, I always hate that argument where people would go, oh, the animals did fine before we got here. It's like, well, I mean, we followed most of these animals across an ice bridge, and there's been native populations, you know, hunting here. You mean before European settlers came here? There's never been a point where most of these species that we have now have not been hunted by humans, and not that I know of, not that anyone knows of. So, I mean, that's
You're probably like
there's
me.
always been management.
Yeah, you probably like me when you see the photos of people in Yellowstone standing on the side of the road taking pictures of the grizzlies or bison, and these chowderheads are walking right up to the stuff and taking pictures. What makes me sick about that is probably the only interaction those people ever have with an animal, and that animal is not wild, and that's the mindset they're going to go to the ballot box with. I mean, it's like, I think if you want to, let's say, vote on something that has to do with grizzly bears, then you need to go, like, I don't know, maybe spend a week in the Bob by yourself. And it's like, and you understand, or maybe go into Kodiak or a Fognak Island in Alaska, and like, okay, you got to hang out with these bears for a week and understand that, we'll send 10 of you there. And there's a very real chance that somebody could die if you do something stupid. If you don't respect these animals and you don't respect them how they need to be respected, because they can be very dangerous animals. And I get lax, I get whatever, but I also respect them. I don't think of them as like these cuddly teddy bears that don't do any damage, that don't harm livestock, that don't, affect real people's lives. I think a lot of people don't understand that. Yeah, when the wolves were sweeping across Idaho, early on, the frustration between, the circle that I run in, and somebody made the comment, that I'll preface this statement that I realize public lands are for the public and like everybody has the right to be on public lands. But when it came to the wolves, it was, you meaning, the cat lady there or whoever in New Jersey or Maryland, you don't have it's going to sound awful, but you don't have a right to tell me what should be here if you've never put boot leather on the ground and you don't know actually what occurs. It's super frustrating in those early days.
Yeah, it can be definitely frustrating. But, in some instances, like, I don't want to see them disappear either, but I also want to just see them managed. No. And it's fun to hunt. I mean, I love hunting in grizzly country. I love hunting in wolf country. I love seeing them. I love being around them. But it doesn't mean that they don't need to be managed, just like everything else.
Yeah, and that's a whole deep dive, because I think that Idaho realizes that they're not going to be, wolves aren't going to be managed by sport hunting. I mean, they've got some aggressive seasons and aggressive trapping seasons, and I don't see Colorado ever being able to be aggressive on them. So, changing world for sure.
Yeah.
So tell me what your favorite animal is to hunt before I let you go.
Oh, I mean, I don't even know how to answer that question. I think it's like, I love sheep hunting. I think they're an incredible animal, but it's an opportunity that's very rare. Maybe that's what makes it so cool. I think that I love calling elk. I love calling an elk for people. I love hunting elk, but I think probably my favorite, I don't know, there's something about bow hunting mule deer. I just think that I honestly think that like bow hunting mature mule deer is probably one of the most challenging hunts there is, I think. And I just love the way mule deer look. They're, it's like, I mean, elk are big, but all elk in some ways, I mean, I know the difference between a big elk and a small elk, but they're all big. They all look like a 6-point bull. Whereas I just love like being able to identify those mule deer with the deep forks and just how they grow, and they're pretty cool. And they can be definitely a challenge to hunt. So I don't know. I love calling for elk. And I almost almost like calling for elk more than I enjoy shooting elk myself, but I love eating elk. So I guess I can't really say. If I could just combine them all, it'd be mule deer, sheep, elk, in some form or another. Something I love about all of them. And some of it too, just I kind of like the place that I'm hunting.
Yeah.
I like mountain hunting. So I think that kind of all falls into that category of like, I really just love hunting mountains or mountain type hunting. And anything that I'm mountain hunting is pretty awesome.
Have you drawn a sheep tag down the lower 48 anywhere?
Yeah, I've shot a couple actually. I'm drawing a desert tag and a California bighorn, the species California bighorn.
Yeah. Wow. That's got to be tough just to draw. Holy smokes.
Yeah. I mean, Nevada's got more sheep than anywhere outside of Alaska. So in the lower 48, there's 3 species of sheep here in Nevada. And like as a resident, you have a pretty good chance of drawing multiple sheep tags in your lifetime.
Are there any sheep tags in your area you guide in Montana?
Yeah, there are. It got pneumonia quite a few years ago. There used to be about 14 tags, and now and it went down to 1. So I used to guide a lot of sheep hunts, but when there's only 1 tag, it becomes more difficult. But over the years, I've helped quite a few guys take sheep in there. That's always fun, just to be a part of it.
Oh man, yeah, no, they're super cool animals. Yeah,
every I don't know what it is, but like every sheep hunt's different too. I mean, there are some sheep hunts that are like way easy. The sheep are just dumb and whatever. Yeah. But then there's those sheep hunts that are extremely difficult. As well. And I think it's just as an animal, though, they're pretty awesome creatures.
Well, hey man, where can people find you on social media again? At Remi Warren?
At Remi Warren, or you could search YouTube. If anybody wants to subscribe to my YouTube channel, I'm going to be adding a lot more videos here in the coming future. So by next month, I do a lot of stuff on the Solohunter YouTube, but I've got my own Remi Warren YouTube channel. If you just search that in YouTube, you can find it and subscribe. That'd be sweet. Cause I'm going to start putting out more how-to stuff and a few of these other hunts that I don't use for anything. I mean, I go out hunting a lot, whether it's guiding or my own hunts or whatever. And, I don't always share everything, but I tried to, I just run out of time to do it. But I was like, I should edit up a few more videos that I think people would think are cool, whether it's like something with a client or whatever, like just some cool hunting stuff and then some more how-to stuff and some cooking type stuff. So that's all there, or on Instagram at Remi Warren. You can always find me there as well.
Well, again, my hat's off to you, man. You spend a lifetime in this, and with all the avenues you could go down, I feel like you've been a great ambassador, and I'd love to have you back on because I like the educational stuff. I'll go back to that bear hunting stuff. I just dig it. That was really good stuff. So I'd love to have you on and come talk species specific sometime. Yeah, definitely. That'd be great. I appreciate you having me here. It's great to get to chat with you. Yeah. Cool, man. Well, good luck. Best of luck this season, and let's stay in touch. Sounds great. Talk to you later.